potentials of Nigeria. I'm not an ornithologist, but I love what they do. And I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation, we may find a nexus between geoconservation and bioconservation. I recall 15 years ago when I moved to a location that is 2 kilometers away from the AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute. On a weekly basis, I observed that a lot of individuals were always coming with their binoculars to come and observe some certain birds around the ponds that was close to my house. So out of curiosity, I decided to find out, the research they were doing. And in the course of it, I was able to get a donation of a binoculars and a bird book from the director of the center, then Professor Manu, and I'm grateful that I was able to at least identify a few species, which included village weavers, the plateau indigo bird, rock martins, nightjar, and a few others like the eagle egrets and so. But I'm hoping that after this presentation, I may seek the permission of the Atlas group to become a member. Thank you so much. So the order of my presentation this afternoon will have some introductory remarks, and then we'll briefly look at spectacular intrusive formations within Nigeria. We'll also look at water bodies and then spectacular extrusive formations. And then we'll briefly look at some of the challenges that is in the geotourism sector in Nigeria and explore opportunities that could lead to collaboration. And thereafter, I will conclude. And I think it's important before we dive into this whole thing to give an introduction of what geotourism is. Geotourism is actually an aspect of ecological tourism that deals with the identification, study, of the Earth's geologically based physical resources and features in an environmentally and culturally sustaining manner in order to provide recreation, relaxation, education, and employment. And I think it is necessary for us to use our natural resources and selflessly create wealth that will positively transform and enhance the life of people and save society from many socioeconomic problems that we're bedeviled with in our nation. But before the wealth of nations can be utilized, they must first be known, searched for, found, extracted, or produced, and if necessary, upgraded. Geotourism is concerned with many of these issues, including the concept of sustainable development, an issue relevant to wealth creation and its judicious use. So another area of human endeavor outside mining that I'm familiar with, where understanding and applying how geology and the Earth's natural resources endowment can be unearthed and used in the service of society, especially in the 36 states of Nigeria and Abuja, is geotourism. And so in my view, visits can be arranged to areas or features of geological or mining origin, which have geotourism appeal based on their aesthetic, cultural, superstitious, and curiosity value. Geotourism appeals to ecological and socially conscious people and focuses on learning new ways of living on Earth by traveling to destinations where flora, fauna, cultural heritage, and natural scenery are the primary attractions. Responsible ecotourism minimizes the negative aspects of conventional tourism and enhances the cultural integrity of local people. In addition to evaluating environmental and cultural factors, an integral aspect of eco or geotourism is to promote recycling, energy efficiency, water conservation, and sustainable local businesses. The infrastructure facilities in these areas should be developed or upgraded, and working with geoscientists and other scientists, of course. The nature and origin of each site could be explained in non-technical language in a way that will interest tourists, usually very inquisitive. Now, many of such sites may have alternative, traditional, or superstitious explanation. So the aim of this presentation is to display and briefly discuss some of the currently known and potential geotourism sites in Nigeria, with particular reference to locations, access, training, research, and job creation potential, and recommend strategies for their sustainable development. So I would like to begin with spectacular intrusive formations that we have within the country. And under this, I have 5. Now, I have what I categorize as the shallow intrusive rocks. One of the very prominent one that I'll be discussing as the first is a trachyte phonolite, Pan-African in age, granite that are Jurassic in age, that constitutes up to 53 ring complexes, with the one on the Jos Plateau as the largest. And as a result of these formations, we have had rocks like the famous Rium Rock, Zuma Rock, Olomo Rock, Aso Rock, among many others, to attract tourists and have since become national tourist sites. We also have the underground mine site in Ririwe, and I think it's the only one that is known in Nigeria. But as it is, it has remained more or less a potential that has not been harnessed, both by the Kano state government and even at the federal level. We also have inlayers and outlayers. The 2 prominent inlayers that we have that we could develop to be a geotourist site include Gombe inlayer and Kaltungo inlayer, among others. And then another area that we need to focus on is speleoscopy, which is the study of caves. And we have these caves littered all across the country. In the southeast, the one that is very prominent and attracting the attention of individuals is the Ogbauku. In the southwest is the one that is known as the Ihu Ileru. And in north central here, we have several of them, including the Gog and Magog and Amo, that we can explore and develop into a tourist site. So going back to the first category, the Wasitrachite funnel-like plug is actually situated 216 kilometers southeast of just here in central Nigeria, in a town called Wasi, which is within a game reserve, and is close to a town that is called Lantan. This gigantic Inselberg rock formation stands at about 350 meters above the surrounding sedimentary flat plain of the Middle Benue Trough. In fact, the location is almost exact at the boundary between the upper and Middle Benue Trough. And some of the sedimentary rocks that host hydrocarbon potentials within the central Nigeria. And it is alleged to be one of the only 5 of its type in the world. From the little studies I have done, I have stumbled on an information that suggests that this rock in Selbag is an important breeding ground for rosy pelican birds of Africa. Now, the photo that is next is a very clear picture of this trachyte phonolite plug that I just described. Now, the next is the Jos Bukru Younger granite rock formation. Now, this is just a component of it, and we have several spectacular ones numbering up to 27 sites that we can clearly categorize to be tourist destination for individuals. And it's interesting to state at this point that some of these rock formations, it's not just limited to the Jos Plateau or Rob Younger Granite Formation, but we're having an extension between the central part of Nigeria that is called Afu and extend right down to Kanu and also Katsina. And so you have this series of rock formations that extend even into Niger Republic in places like Niamey and so on. Now, time will not permit me to be able to categorize them one by one because it's going to take me close to 3 hours to be able to do that. But just to mention, for the purpose of this presentation, that those sites are so numerous, to mention. Now, another categorization that I have made is that of water bodies. Now, within the water bodies in Nigeria, we can categorize them into waterfalls, and under these, we have very prominent waterfalls, including Kura, Mayes, Gurara, Erin Ijesha, Olomirin, and Asop, all of them located within the southwestern parts and central parts of Nigeria. We also have lakes that have attracted a lot of tourists, such as Uguta Leg, Jabi Leg, and the Nike Leg, among others. We also have mining ponds, particularly along the Jos Bukru and Barkin Ladi axis. Most of them, the ponds resulted from excavation sites resulting from mining activities that took place between 1914 and at the peak around 1945 and periods before Nigerian independence in 1960. We also have craters that have water body, but the very prominent one that we have is located in Podong, in somewhere in Mango at the plateau. We also have springs, and in the southwest, the one that is very common is known as the Ikogosi. We also have the Yankari spring that is in the northeastern part of the country, and of course, several others that we have, like the one in Awe, which has a lot of healing properties, and many people have gone into it, particularly those who have interest in balneology, and just recently, based on studies in the area, an emerging field on geotourism, on medical tourism has emerged, and the center has been established at the Nasarawa State University, confirming that indeed some of these springs have medicinal value beyond just the tourist attraction. So looking at some of the falls that we have, if we look at three of them, the three of them, namely Kura Falls, Mayas Fall, and the Asop Falls, are all having their sources on the plateau, which is an undulating land, very flat. And all the three are located, and could best be described as an escarpment. The Kura Falls, for instance, that was developed close to a century ago, to be precise, in 1927, became the first hydroelectric power station. It's located some 77 kilometers southeast of Jos. The area is very well known for its breathtaking scenery, and it has pleasant climate suitable for people who cherish beauty and pleasant environments. Now, some of these inselbergs that are surrounding it and hills and lakes, the area could be explored for boating, camping, and rock climbing, as well as fishing along the streams and lakes. Now, the one that is quite popular is the Aso Waterfall, which is located 62 kilometers along the Jos Akwanga Road at Hawan Kibo, at the foot of the steep climb or escarpment. And it's actually up to 1,300 meters plus on the plateau. Aso Falls is another of nature's several tourism gifts to Nigeria. And many movies have been shot in that location. Now, another waterfall that is of interest to tourists is the Mayes waterfall that is situated in Masingi in Nasarawa State and lies within the adjoining highlands and hilly massif of the Shakalari Younger Granite Complex, which is the third largest in Nigeria. It has its source actually from a place called Sha in Bokos of Plateau State, but then the fall itself is in Nasarawa State. So you have a situation whereby the river where the fall starts is basement rock, and it's to be because rocks are seen just at the foot of the fall, and it's up to 400 meters, which is roughly about feet. Now, if you look at the southern part of the fall, that dam was being utilized by NESCO to provide hydroelectric power to mining sites within the plateau. The Nasarawa State Electricity Company is developing actually a hydropower downside to provide electricity to surrounding states. And so the fall wasn't just designed to attract tourists alone, but to generate power. But beyond that, the proximity of each to some of the game reserves that are also close also suggests that we can seek collaboration between geoscientists and bio conservation scientists to look at some of the birds that are within those axes. I'm aware that two conservation scientists had done some certain work. I don't know the bird species. I think it should be one of them is an ornithologist that I had a conversation with. So I believe that some of these studies could be integrated and we'll have a better understanding of our environment. So the picture that I have next actually is that of the Kwal Fall, because outside these three that I mentioned, we have several others. To the best of my knowledge and the ones I have documented and visited, just within Nigeria alone, we have over 30 different falls. And these are the ones that are not very prominent, but could be developed. The next one that we have is known as the Nkindoro Fall, which is between the boundary between Plateau and Kaduna State. We also, beyond the falls, have excavations of mining sites that led to the development of ponds. Those ponds could be turned into tourist sites. And I think one of the best examples is the Reefy Resort that has been converted into a resort of a sort that many people come to engage in boat riding. And then there are chalets that have been developed for accommodation and spaces provided for people where they could organize parties and so on. We believe that other places too, in as much as reclamation was not done prior to independence, those places could be converted into tourist sites and revenues generated and employment also provided for many young people in the country. Now, the next one that we have is an example of a mining pond that those of us who are interested in geoheritage and conservation could engage such authorities, and companies to own up to corporate social responsibility by ensuring that reclamation is done, or part of their contribution is to turn the area into how Refi Resort was turned into, and then part of it could also be used for irrigation purposes. We also have another group of geotourist sites that we can broadly classify as spectacular extrusive formations. And under this, we have the Sura volcanic line, we have the Cameroon volcanic line, we have columnar basalts, we have subbasaltic tin mineralization sites. Now, the Sura volcanic line is a range of 22 different dormant volcanoes that are tertiary in age and lie almost on a certain line between a place that is known as Mango right down to Bassa in Plateau State. Now, examples of some of the volcanoes that you can find in such places include the Lake Pidong, the volcano in Pudong. We also have the Conical Hill. We also have some of the hills like the Twin volcano in Miango. So talking about alternate stories that I was making reference to when I started in the introduction, the Rigwe people who live in Miango believe that the twin volcano that is situated around Jebubasa in the land there, it's actually a god of fertility, that there is a male god and a female god. Now, it's important that those of us who are scientists are able to engage and bring out scientific facts so that we can give alternate explanation to why there is fertility, within the area. Part of the research that I've done clearly suggests, because I've gone to the place several times with tourists, and I've seen that the volcano, erupted, but then had a flow towards the northern parts. And so you don't see the circle quite complete. But the soil around is enriched by ferromagnesian minerals that make it very, very rich, that crops like Irish potatoes and several other crops could thrive very well. And the same explanation could be given to why within the Mango Bocos axis, you have a lot of Irish potatoes being produced. If you get to such places, you can still pick most of the basalts that are there. You can see some of the scoria that is there. You find ignimbrites, you have pumice, you have even some of the ops that are still very much, in place. And so such explanation, bringing folk laws and scientific explanation side by side will reach some of the ecosystem components, particularly when this is provided by tour guides that are certified. And you also find that the same kind of volcanoes are in a line within the southeastern part of the country, getting to around Cross River, heading right down in the Cameroons. And so we call that one the Cameroon volcanic line, and part of it could be developed for a geotourism. Then we also see in the next slide there, very, very conspicuous. Now, these columnar basalts are a sight to behold. The picture that I have there is that of the Kawan columnar basalt that is found in Riom local government. But we also have some of it also in Ikom in Cross River that has been well documented, and some of my colleagues have published. I've also published on some of the ones that I have found in Tindonro, which is located 14 kilometers away from Tegbe, close to Jos. Those ones also are very, very good sites to behold. We also have some that are right there in Miango. We also have some that are located close to the Goza axis in the northeastern part of Nigeria. Now, one will not get to appreciate this until you travel to places like the giant causeways in Norway, where some of these columnar basalts have been well documented, and even the number of the blocks have been counted, and we have thousands of visitors, in hundreds of thousands, visiting the giant causeways on a yearly basis. But we have ours highly underutilized. So if we're able to develop some of the infrastructure within those areas and have chalets and have good routes and camping grounds and have hiking trails around such places, it will be a site that even international tourists will be attracted to come to look at. Now, the next slide that I have is not strictly what I could consider a spectacular extrusive formation, but I just brought it here because most of the sedimentary structures that are found within that axis, many people mistaking it to be igneous rocks. What you have there, it's me with my students, I think around 2016, that we went. This is the Tula axis at the boundary between Adamawa and Gombe. Now you find this kind of Bima formation, which is the oldest part of the Benue Trough, highly indurated sandstones and very conspicuous in sizes, right from the Kaltungo axis going down to Shongom, and then getting down to even Dadia and aspects, some parts of Tula. And you find some of those ones extending even into Guyuk axis in Adamawa. And as you move towards the biobasalts within areas like Shani, you find very spectacular rock formations that will pass any day for geotourist sites. And another thing I want to mention before I leave the extrusive formations is the existence of subbasaltic tin mineralization that many people are not aware and has not been documented. As a consultant to most of the foreign miners that are in Nigeria, I've come to realize that there are subbasaltic tin mineralizations that have not been explored right from independence, and some of them have underground mines that were developed even by the Germans over 100 years ago, and they are just left there. Such areas could be looked, not just the sub-basaltic, but ancient river channels, and also the rail lines that were developed will become a catch and a historic site that could be preserved and revenues generated, for the country. But having said that, there are a lot of challenges that is facing the geotourism sector in Nigeria. One of such challenges is the lack of political will We have had instances where some of the infrastructure could be developed like roads. I had mentioned the issue of the Mice waterfall, which people call the Farinrua Fall. Now, if there was synergy between the political leaders between 1999 and say 2003, a road could have been constructed from Sisimbaki right down to Mama to Kwara and getting to Bokos. That would have provided easy access for people both in the northern part of Nigeria and the southern part to have access to this very interesting water body. But beyond just even having the Maes waterfall, there are a lot of spectacular rock formations like the Masenge Hills and so many other things that could be of interest to tourists in the place. And a system of pulleys and so on could have been done for individuals to be able to enjoy even some of the chalets that were abandoned, time ago. Some of the Am I still audible? Hello?
So we can hear you now.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
All right. So we also have the issue of this spiritual bigotry and inclination, like the example that I had given, in the past with respect to the issue of the Miango twin volcano. And so there are a lot of such superstition beliefs, like when you go to the northern part of the Sarafar, Younger Granite Complex, in axis like Boy, and you have even within the Kwapa Valley, stories relating to snakes and even water bodies that are within Younger Granite complexes that have a lot of fractures that, from a scientific point of view, is not possible. I think it's important for us to be able to provide scientific explanation and debunk some of this spiritual bigotry that has stopped people from exploring such geotourist sites. And there are a lot of plant species that I understand that are peculiar to places like Balang. And, that place in Balang in Panchin, you have the end of the Younger Granite complexes that is called the Sarafer Younger Granite Complex, which is the last in the eastern part of Nigeria. And then going down, you now have the basement complex before going into the Benue Valley. So within those axes, there are a lot of contributions that would have come, resulting from some of the magmatic enclaves that are found in Panshin, and also some of the cyanites that you find even in very interesting geotourist sites like the Panshin conical, hilltop sites, right down to four. Those explanations could be given species preponderant, within those areas. Now, one of the areas I want to suggest as a way of collaboration between geoconservation scientists and also bioconservation scientists is to explore the opportunities that exist within UNESCO. There are two components that I want us to see. The first program that they have UNESCO Global Geoparks. Now, which is known as the UGGP. The UGGP provides UNESCO certification and designation to geoparks that meet such specific requirements. Now, presently, there are 195 geoparks in 48 countries, with only 2 geoparks in African countries, located in Tanzania and Morocco. I'm wondering why Nigeria is not there, and it's because we have not been able to engage. From even the brief explanation that I've given on some of the geo sites, if we have a lot of collaborations and designate some of those areas, like within the younger granite complexes that run from the southern part of the country to the northern part, almost in a north-south direction. And then we have some of them within the pegmatite belt that runs between the southwestern part of the country to the northeastern part of the country, and up to 400 kilometers, in length, and 150 kilometers, in width. We could designate areas, like some of the flower structures that we have even in Gombe. We also have even some of the ichnofossils that we have, like Thessalonidas in Gombe. And also beyond the ichnofossils, we also have several fossils like ammonites and so on that are just peculiar to the Upper Benue Trough. Such areas could be designated, and we could create a geopark that will be recognized by UNESCO, and a lot of fundings provided for us. So a UNESCO Global Geopark utilizes its geological heritage in conjunction with all other aspects of the area's natural and cultural heritage. You see, it goes beyond even those of us who are scientists, who could bring in people who are in the arts and so on to be able to get these sites, recognized. This enhances awareness and understanding of the key issues facing society, such as using our earth resources sustainably, mitigating climate change, and reducing natural hazards related risks. Because the example I give of the Cameroon volcanic line and also the Sura volcanic line, you know that they are dormant volcanoes, and dormant volcanoes will become active anytime due to the heterogeneous nature of the earth crust. Anything can happen. And so it's important for us to de-risk, some of those things with studies that could be funded by the UNESCO UGGP project. Another area of collaboration that I think we can explore is to look at the IGCP, which is actually the International Geoscience Program. Now, under it, it has 5 teams. We have the earth resources sustaining our society. We also have the global change, and it relies on the evidence from geological records, like some of the records I just mentioned with respect to the fossils that have been documented that are Cretaceous in age. We can document such, and we can get funding, for it. Then the issue of geohazards. I just mentioned the issue of some of these volcanoes. We can develop concept notes to be able to pursue that, because to the best of my knowledge, no one is working on it right now that has this sponsorship from UNESCO. And then there are aspects, I've mentioned a lot of water bodies. We can look at and group it. There's a funding under hydrogeology that looks at the geoscience of water cycle. And then we can look at how the dynamics within the environment and how it can be controlled. So those are some of the themes that we could explore under UNESCO. So in conclusion, I want to state that to facilitate public interest in geotourism, geoscientists and scientists in general, government agencies, communities, and other stakeholders must collaborate to sensitize the public, develop and preserve this national patrimony heritage sites for teaching, training, research, sustainable development, job creation, environmental conservation, and exploration of alternatives to traditional exploitation and uses. And examples, of course, include this hydropower, bird migration, and observation. But before I quit, I want to acknowledge Professor Ogizi, who ignited my interest in geotourism. I had earlier given credit to Professor Manu, who is the director of the AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute 15 years ago, for giving me a bird book and igniting my interest, in birds. And I also want to thank Frizzle and Nana, who introduced me to the wayfarers of Jos, and also Dr. P.M. Davwar, who is a member of the Jos Bird Club, for allowing me to share some of the photos that I used in this presentation. And to Mrs. Nanchin Kazi of the Jos Bird Club for introducing me to the Nigerian Bird Atlas project. Thank you so much for listening. Hello?
Thank you so much, Dr. Aga, for the brilliant and interesting presentation. Really, I would say, like the first time that I've met you and you mentioned geotourism, I was like, wow, is there anything like that even exists? That's to tell you, many of us don't even have an idea of what it is and the potentials that are in it. And so thank you so much for this, for honoring this invite and for carrying us along to help us understand better our environment. And so before we go further, I will just post here and ask if anyone has a question. Please, you can just unmute and ask the presenter directly, or you can put it in the chat. Then I read it out while I share the picture of the birds that we start with. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Aga, for this presentation. I eagerly looked forward to. It's really an interesting one. Because of time, I had an issue in my hand. I thought I wouldn't stay to the end, but I'm grateful to God I'm able to come back again. I would strongly suggest that these recommendations made by our presenter be followed up, because for those of us that are in conservation biology, I'm sure we'll agree that the nexus between geosciences and even geotourism and conservation has been painted very clearly here. And so those huge opportunities that there are, as shown from this presentation, should be pursued. And I think this can happen as we keep up with this conversation, following the lots of opportunities that our presenter has even shown. So once again, I'd like to sincerely thank Dr. Aga for this presentation and for everyone who is here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Dr. Sampson. And the amazing thing that Dr. Aga brought forth in this presentation is the fact that with all of these potentials that we have, I don't think any of them is being utilized. Because you can imagine when he mentioned about the UGGP, and then none is even a geopark in Nigeria, only 2 in Africa. I think there is a huge gap that we need to look into and to be able to collaborate and to bring forth all these potentials that we have. One cannot do this alone, but when from different specialties will come together and then put our head together, I believe we'll be able to push this forward, as Dr. Sampson rightly said. So do we have more questions for Dr. Aga or any contribution? So if there is none for now, this particular bird, I want to believe that we can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so initially I was like, I'm going to ask a question for someone to just give me the name of the bird, but I don't think it's necessary any longer because you have even mentioned it in the presentation already, Dr. Aga. So this is the white pelican, or some will call it the rosy pelican. These birds in the past actually breed around the Wasi Rock, but then I think unfortunately they are no longer there. So these are some of the things that we need to look into it alongside the geologists, the conservation biologists, the ornithologists, because the thing is, if Wasi Rock and surrounding areas are being designated as geoparks, I want to believe that this bird will still be breeding around that area. But then as we go along our daily activities, I think it's good to be thinking that the universe is not just meant for humans alone. All of these are meant to coexist alongside with all of us. So what could be the reason why these birds are not breeding around that side any longer? Could it be that the rock formations are having problem? They are no longer suitable? Could it be the people? Could it be that we that was in the field are not going out and doing our job enough? Because it's something else to have the knowledge, and another thing to go out there and make sure that people are educated. So we need actually to do something about all of this and to know better our environment. Thank you so much. Any more contribution or questions while I post the recording?